I am here with New Jersey Senator Cory Booker out in Spirit Lake, Iowa, and tell me a little bit about what we're doing out here and where we are.
I love it up here. It's one of the areas in the state that often doesn't get as many visitors from presidential candidates, and we're going to talk about hunger, about long-term care, and about real issues that are affecting people that often don't get talked about enough from the presidential stage.
Before we get started, I wanted to do a quick rapid response question and Q&A with you, if you're down for that.
I'm scared.
Okay. I've been told by the librarian it's okay to get a little loud in the library today, so...
We won't be shh.
What is a talent that you wish you had?
A talent I wish I had is singing. I mean, I sing all the time, unapologetically, but not well.
Is there a talent that is related to sort of like the presidency and gaining that office?
Oh, when you saw President Obama sing Amazing Grace, I mean, come on. That was one of my favorite presidential moments.
Is there an item that you collect? And if so, why?
We're in the library. I'm a bit of a book addict. Going into like a Barnes & Noble's or a rare bookstore, it's dangerous for me because I tend to spend a lot of money.
What sport would you say that politics is most like?
Well, you're asking a football player. I always joke, I tell people I got into Stanford because of our 4.0 yards per carry, 1,600 receiving yards as an All-American football player. I think football takes grit and toughness and resiliency and keeping your eye on what's important. The reality is when it comes to politics in our country, it's not us against them, it's all of us are us. And the real challenge is finding the common ground, creating one large team here in the United States of America.
Is there something that people don't know about you that you haven't shared publicly?
I mean, I just shared that I sing a lot.
What is the toughest decision that you've had to make as a boss?
I led my state's largest city through one of the most challenging crises it's had since the Great Depression. So there were lots of really tough decisions that I had to make, from cutting the size of our government down 25% to endure the challenges.
And what has been the biggest recent win for America and our society?
You know, all my life I've been working on criminal justice reform. We've seen about a 500% increase since 1980 alone of the American prison population. Finally, we're starting to move the needle back towards justice. A long way to go, but the change has begun.
What is the biggest mistake that you feel like you've made as a leader?
I've made a lot of mistakes. There were some kids in my building. I was living in some high-rise projects. And these beautiful American kids growing up, and I smelled marijuana, though, in the lobby. And, you know, I started working with them, getting involved, mentoring and stuff, but I got busy running for president. And a lot of the commitments I made to them, I didn't follow through as quickly as I should have. One of the earliest murders in my city was right down the block from where I lived. And one of the kids that was murdered was the kid in the lobby of where I lived. And it was such a painful moment of my life. Here, I had a chance to pay it forward. And I missed that opportunity. I didn't show up for young people. So I'm never going to let, no matter what the presidential campaign even, distract me from the obligations we all have to each other to be there, to show up, to show kindness, to do justice every day, not in big ways, but in those small human interactions that actually make big differences in our lives.
Is there a time in your life where you felt discriminated against?
I'm a black man in America.
Is there one that resonates with you most?
I mean, there's definitely lots of interactions with police when I was in my 20s. But I think even the most painful one was just to see my parents and their fear they had when I got my driver's license, that it would expose me. One small move of your hands or something like that can incite fear. You could get shot.
What's the hardest part about being on the campaign trail?
I think it's just the fighting fatigue. The most rewarding thing is how people lift your spirits, keep you going, remind you of why you're working so hard in the first place.
And so, so another sort of leadership
When you start a question with ooh, I'm bracing myself.
Who's your most important hire if elected president?
I think it's going to be my vice president. You put that person on the ballot, they're going to help you, number one, get elected. But I really want to choose a woman that's going to be amazing. It's going to be really with me at the table, helping me make challenging and difficult decisions.
And you're committed to choosing a woman.
I think that we need diverse teams. Diverse teams are better teams.
What department under the executive branch is most in need of reform?
Oh, my God. I mean, up and down. I'll be taking over from a president who just committed in many ways moral vandalism in a lot of these departments, that had entire agencies being led by people who don't even believe in the agencies.
If this 2020 race was an episode of Survivor and you're playing in it, who gets voted off the island next?
Do we have to use that show? We in this country will continue to do things that others think are humanly impossible. But the way we do them is not by beating each other down, but by lifting each other up. Not by dividing this country, but by uniting us. That's how we rise.
So not by voting people off the island?
No, we need everybody on the island.
If you could have any celebrity feed you a food, who would the celebrity be and what would the food be?
That's not hard. Rosario Dawson would be the person I would choose. And being that I get to see her tonight, I don't know what we're having for dinner.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.